genetics and skill. So obviously, certain genetics are gonna wire people towards certain things. You know, if you're first thing that comes to my mind is if you're fucking tall as shit, what sport are you gonna play? You're gonna you're gonna lean towards the basketball. I don't even remember where I heard this, but I heard that like most women like over not like most I don't fucking remember the exact statistic. But like a lot of women, high percentage of women that are over 6 feet, over that 6 foot marker, really lean into basketball compared to their under 6 foot counterparts. So that's obviously that. But what about if you have bad genetics? What if you have genetics that are on paper considered undesirable? There's a whole different angle that you have to take. A whole different lifestyle even. Because even if you have good or great genetics, let's look at it like a competition, right? If you have good or great genetics in a certain competition, basketball, baseball, some gamer shit, whatever it is. If you have good genetics, man, it's a different battle because you're competing against other people with good genetics in that sport, in that competition, whatever it is, and you gotta fight tooth and nail against some of the best people. Like you're competing against that person or those people like head to head to head to head, right? If in whatever category or whatever area your genetics are on the weaker side of things, the less desirable side of things, how does that make it different? The battle is totally different because people with great genetics, they're gonna stand out in the crowds. They're gonna, unfortunately, probably generally be a little more liked across the board than people with clearly poor genetics. So people with bad genetics, I mean, there's groups of people they're gonna think those people with bad genetics, they're just truly just starting behind in life, like behind on a different playing field. So it's a totally different ball game. And I almost kind of want to laugh at that, calling it that, but it's some real shit, man. Like if you have poor genetics, like say the classic, you're short and ugly. What's the move? Like what skill? If you're 7 feet tall, you're probably gonna be inclined towards basketball, okay, or whatever. You're the inclination that you have with someone's gonna be kind of obvious. But if you have, you know, I hate saying it, like it sounds so shitty, but if you have like the less good on paper genetics, what's the angle? Like you're right off the bat in a number of things, you're not gonna be able to like compete amongst the best. Like you have to win like the genetic lottery to even have a chance to play like high level sports in any capacity, for example, right? So damn. I didn't really like. I don't have like a script, as you could probably obviously tell. So as I'm thinking about this and going, it kind of just hits you. It just kind of just hits you. Because again, like you'd have to do something just totally different. Like because like say like a well-gened person in a couple ways, they're not gonna have to try as hard in life because with the halo effect and shit, things are just gonna come their way. Things that they're gonna take for granted. That like a poor gened person would be like, damn, I wish I got basic human decency. It's just so fucked up, actually. It just hit me. It's fucked up. But if you're that poor gene person, like, your life is gonna just be a little bit harder for some reasons. But bringing this all back to the idea of skill, right? Because that person is not going to be able to compete in certain things to the highest degree. That means, in a way, you could really look at that like as a good thing, right? Like, in a world where selection anxiety exists, having less things that you can even consider or choose to be good at or worth your time, that can be good because that gives you time to actually zero in on the depth of something. And the idea of mastery, that's something we kind of vaguely understand. Only it's hard as fuck to master something, but the more time, the more commitment that you put into something, you can master it. You can master that skill. So even though at face value, like at first glance, shit's like pretty fucked up for the more poor gened person, the positive outlook on that, in my mind at least, this is how it makes sense to me, is you can focus on less things overall. You can understand that things are just going to be different for me. I'm going to focus on less things, but really get into those less things, right? Like oh man, like the poor gened person versus the good gened person, right? If the poor gened person was like, well, I have to find a way to feel good about being alive, and they just dumped hours of their time into like the skills that are a part of your general well-being, that person's they're gonna enjoy being alive more than the good gened person because sure, they were forced basically to put that time into that skill, or those skills. But that's fine, like if you're kind of backed into a wall, man, you still have like a good option out of that wall, like that's fine, make the most out of it. Like, I don't know. Even if you're like on the spectrum of bad gened person to good gened person, like everyone's gonna have some things that they're just kind of like poor genes on, but kind of accepting that and being able to kind of drive further into the other shit, that's a skill. That's a valuable skill. Looking at something like, I can't change this, or I can change this very minimally. Let me dial the fuck in to the things that I can actively change or fucking actively build upon. Yeah.